Welcome to Ceasefire, where civics meets civility and engagement meets empowerment. Ceasefire is hosted by former Boerne ISD trustee and owner of the Boerne Bookshop, Dale Adams, and by former Boerne City Council member and local insurance agent, Ron Cisneros. Ready, aim, ceasefire.
Good morning, Kendall County. This is Ceasefire. My name is Dale Adams.
And I'm Ron Cisneros.
And today we're talking about a couple things that are flip sides of each other. Hope or hate, faith or fear. Mm-hmm. Which way should we go, Ron?
Oh, man. Well, give you a little background and why we're talking about this. We just went through a pretty nasty school board election, and we're in the midst of a really nasty Republican primary runoff. I'm going to encourage you all to go out and vote. We have one day left, of voting, and that's Tuesday, so get out and vote. But yeah, the elections have gotten a little ugly, and so we want to talk about that. You know, how did we get here? Why does this keep happening? You know, what can we do about it?
Why do people get stirred up? That's the question. Why?
Yeah, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine at lunch, and he asked that question, and he thought it was a more recent thing. Like, this is like, there's a sort of a new cultural shift. And I said, no, I don't think so. You start digging into the Old Testament, and I think you'll find the reason right there. We're just not happy with one leader. We keep looking to somebody, a man-made institution or a man to lead us. Yeah. So we put everything on that one guy or that one gal to get us over the top and get us through our troubles and what we think afflicts us. And then they fail us. And so everything's vested in that one person. Yeah. And so it's do or die. Like, if we don't get this result from this election, then everything we love and cherish, our whole community is going to fall apart.
Yeah, this sounds like idolatry a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about not doing that.
Yeah. And so I think that's how we got here. And so we're basically saying our destiny, everything we love, is tied into this person or this outcome. And when we do that, we're challenging our own faith or the things that we say we believe.
Yeah. But why are we driven to do that? I mean, if we didn't do that, if we didn't invest our emotions into these candidates or into these causes, it wouldn't matter to us as much if they won or lost. It's that emotional connection that we throw into the whole process and decide that I'm emotionally committed to this person, and that person's evil because they're not this person. And I never understood that.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons we do that is we have a really short perspective, right? If we looked at things from the beginning of time, right, as far back as we can, our historical record, and we look at everything that humans have experienced, from natural calamities, like major volcanic explosions or tsunamis, or we look at some of the great wars that we've been through or great famines. If we could look at everything over that large span of time, then we'd see, you know what, we're pretty resilient, and we generally come out okay. But we don't. Yeah. I think we're too narrowly focused on a short period of time. And every election, it seems like, is the most important election of our lifetime. In fact, our political leaders tell us that, hey, this is it. If you don't get this done and over the hump, then everything's going to fall apart. And we believe them, right? I mean, not to stir up the waters here, but look at the abortion debate.
Same thing.
Roe versus Wade, right? And
end of the world.
End of the world, right? And if we don't get this certain, whichever side you're on, right? It was critical to get a certain side elected in order to get the outcome that you wanted.
Yep.
Right? I don't know by the numbers that we're any different today than we were 50 years ago, right? I mean,
abortions went up after Roe v. Wade was overthrown. Yeah. So, not sure that had anything to do with that or with the trends.
Right.
But it happened, and a lot of people got emotionally upset or happy about it.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that actually ties into what I think the problem is that we keep looking, again, for these government solutions to what I think are spiritual problems, right? And so we're not dealing with it at the right level. If crime is high, if you think abortion's too high, or if you think taxes are too high, it's like, well, which political leader is going to get me there, right? Instead of, what am I going to do about it? What am,
for myself, within my own soul.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
I enjoy political discussions. I enjoy historical discussions. I enjoy discussing points of view with people. But frequently, and more so now than when I was younger, I don't engage in those because I come up against a wall, and I don't feel like I'm discussing something with somebody who's willing to look at the other side of the issue or debate it on its merits rather than, oh man, but anybody that thinks that's just evil. And I'm like, well, there's some nuance there. I sort of think I can see their perspective a little bit. And so it shuts down conversations. And I don't enjoy that.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like, as I've gotten older, it's like, well, okay, I could engage in that political conversation with that person. What's the outcome of that?
Yeah,
Does anybody walk away with their mind changed? Probably not. Okay. Do we walk away feeling better about each other afterwards?
A lot of
Probably
times not.
Yeah. And so is it worth it? No. And I joke around a lot about this. I'll say, hey, when we were younger, we talked about, girls, rock and roll, cars, and I still kind of want to talk about girls, rock and roll, and cars.
You do?
Yeah, I do. That probably is silly and doesn't go anywhere either, but at least, no, I don't have to worry about somebody sticking a knife into my back at the end of that conversation, unless we're talking about Ford or Chevys, and then
that goes sideways.
Yeah, that could go to a knife fight. I don't know, but well, it's even worse for me because I'm a Mopar guy, so
how could you be?
I get hate on all sides. That's like saying I like RC Cola over Coke and Pepsi. And I was like, oh, you got to be that guy, But yeah, so I think we act like salvation hangs in the balance, right? Like everything is going to come to a loss. And if that's true, what does that say about our faith? If we are, if we profess to be Christians and we act as if the outcome of an election determines whether we're going to be saved or not, what does that say about our faith?
Yeah.
I wrote something after. It's a little background for everybody. If you don't know already, Dale and I do this thing called the Boerne Civic Roundtable, and we host candidate forums. And we did one, it's like 2 weeks ago now, and well attended, good event, but it almost didn't happen.
Yeah. Because
of all of this drama on Facebook, and we had some concerns for safety. I, for the first time, had to have uniformed law enforcement presence there. That didn't feel good. And so the next day, I was upset about it.
Before you go there, I do want to say that what you did there, when you started it off with that scripture, I think changed the entire dynamics of everything there. I was incredibly impressed. I think you did an awesome job starting that off, getting people to reflect on being calm and being civil. So I just want to commend you for that.
Well,
publicly.
I appreciate that.
But I know afterwards we still were thinking what could have happened.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you why I did that. Normally we would start off with a prayer, then go into the pledge. And I thought for a moment, okay, I need to say something about this and let people know we're going to have certain expectations because, as I told everybody there, we're the Civic Roundtable, not the Civil War Roundtable. Yeah. But I thought, if Ron Cisneros gets up there and he says, hey, this is how you should behave. Well, you know what? Shut up, Ron Cisneros, right? Yep. But if I get up there and I read 6 scriptures, they come from the Bible, and you disagree with me, well, you're not disagreeing with me. You're disagreeing with the Word of God. And if you want to fight him, good luck. Yeah. I've never known anybody in the Bible that successfully beat God at anything, right? I mean, maybe Jacob had a good wrestling match with him, but I don't want to take him on. So we did have a good meeting afterwards, but the next day I was feeling a little sore about how I had to do all of
Yes.
that, you know, and so I wrote something on Facebook about that. I did a little public post, and I thanked both of the candidates for being there, and you know, explained to everybody, look, we're all broken, right? And if you look at my history, you're going to find some things there that might shock you as much as the history of the two candidates that are fighting for that county judge position.
Likewise.
So, you know, I wrote this piece to get people to refocus on God, refocus on their faith. Stop looking for perfection in men, because they're never going to find it. And I closed it by saying, I'm not sure, you know, I'm still an undecided voter. I don't know if I'm even going to vote at all. Now, all of the feedback but two was really, really good. I have had two people come up to me and tell me that I was basically wrong, that I was encouraging people not to vote. And one said that they had put so much work into this campaign. It wasn't one of the candidates, but it was one of the candidate supporters. That they had put so much work into this campaign that I needed to stop what I was saying. I needed to take it down. You know, that I was encouraging people not to vote. And they completely missed the point. I'm not trying to encourage people not to vote. I'm not trying to encourage people not to participate in civic government. I mean, we do this show and we do the civic roundtable because we want people to have civic knowledge and be engaged. But I also want you to prioritize what's most important in your life. And politics should never be ahead of your faith. Politics should never be ahead of your family. And your faith should be strong enough that it doesn't matter who gets in the county judge's seat, who ends up in the mayor's seat, or who ends up in the White House. If you're telling me that you think that God is the ultimate omnipotent being in the universe, but then you're telling me that our life is in the balance if so-and-so gets in, if Shane gets in, or if Ricky gets in, then you're contradicting yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. You know, there was a book from way back. I don't know if it's still around. I don't think we have it. But it was called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's all small stuff. And that was basically its message, is that everything you worry about, if you step back and look at the big picture, it's not that important. You're going to get through it. Tomorrow the sun will shine, usually. I think the whole thing is about people have a lack of perspective. They're so focused on what's going on inside them. And our society has become very emotional. Things are driven by emotions. And so it's the emotions that are important to them now, rather than an accomplishment or a deed or something like that. And when we use our emotion in our activities, in our political opinions, or whatever you want to call it, it ties us tighter to that outcome and it shouldn't be. You know, if you're an engineer and you're designing a bridge and you're emotional about it rather than just analytical about it, you can make mistakes. Surgeons don't perform on their family because there's an emotional connection, and you want somebody who's just going to focus on the job or whatever it is. I would like politics to be the same. I want people to be invested and interested. I don't want them to be emotional about it. There's a difference between having an interest or being passionate about a topic or an issue and being emotional about it. And I'm not sure exactly where the line is, but it's really that going emotional and going into that world of love and hate on the issue rather than just being passionately interested in the issue.
Right.
And I think people go over that line a lot. And, you know, I'm not perfect. I do it too. But I do think I make a point of trying to pull back and maintain that perspective that, okay, we're just focused on the issues, or that not this emotional connection to that person who I probably don't even know.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what I'm passionate about?
What's that?
Commercial breaks.
Well, I'm going to give you one right now.
All right.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Ceasefire with Dale and Ron. Boerne has its own bookshop. In fact, it's called the Boerne Bookshop. Hi, I'm Dale Adams, inviting you to get lost. Get lost in a good book in our relaxed and casual atmosphere. We have a wide and eclectic selection in the Boerne Bookshop. We pride ourselves on finding what you're looking for. We do author meet and greets, host writing workshops, and can connect you with a good book club. And your young ones will absolutely love our kids section at the Boerne Bookshop. And while we want you to get lost, we're easy to find, as we're in the heart of Boerne at the back of the Richter Tavern building. We are the Boerne Bookshop. Welcome back. This is Ceasefire with Dale and Ron, and we had an interesting question just during our break, which was, what if it is the end of the world? What if there is some calamity that's coming around because of our leaders or our society or our culture, you know? Sodom and Gomorrah, Noah, you know? There could be times when we are going to be slapped back to nothing kind of thing. And answer that, that's above my pay grade. I don't want to go out and make my mission in life to change our culture to be perfect. I want to behave in a way that changes my local culture to be better. The big picture job is just too big for me, so I want to focus locally. And I do think some people do try and change the whole world in that way. I think they're trying to take on more than an individual really can. Yeah. And I think we need to focus on our local culture and behaviors.
I think that we have had times in American history where we have been put to the test, where things have looked dire. War of 1812, Civil War, you know, that election for preceding the Civil War probably felt like do or die. For people on both sides, right? Like for the Southerners, like this, our culture, our way of life, everything is at stake here if Lincoln is elected, right? Yeah. And the same for the Northerners. Like, oh my gosh, we got to get Lincoln in there, or everything we love and believe is at stake. And I am not trying in any way, shape, or form to diminish what they felt. But I think when those moments happen, that is the call to getting on your knees and praying and turning to your faith more than turning to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party.
And in that case, actually, it didn't matter who had elected. It would have happened. If it didn't happen that year, it would have happened the next year. We were on a track to have a violent confrontation between the North and the South. It was going to happen no matter what. Right.
And I think the same can be said of any present day thing that we're looking at right now and saying, oh my gosh, this is end of the world stuff. If we don't fix what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, or if we don't fix what's happening in Israel with the Palestinians, if we don't fix, you know, we have this belief that it has to be solved, and it has to be solved by us
right now.
And it can only be done with that guy over there that's running for office, instead of getting on our knees and praying.
Right.
And believing and having faith in the thing that we say we have faith in, like truly having deep-rooted faith.
Yeah.
You know, and that no matter what happens, you know, we're in God's hands.
You know, I think you've made a very interesting point there, in that violence comes from fear. And fear comes from, I don't want to say lack of faith, but perhaps lack of confidence in our faith. And if we focus on trying to regain or improve or strengthen our faith, that will reduce the risk of violence or bad outcomes, or whatever you want to call it. But all these paranoid, violent outbursts and stuff that people have come from fear, which comes from lack of faith.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, to reemphasize something I said earlier, government matters, the elections matter.
Yes.
Not saying that they don't, policies matter, but once our politics become messianic, once they become our savior, we've engaged in idolatry. And we've opened ourselves up to hatred, we've opened ourselves up to division, we've opened ourselves up to violence. It never goes well.
You're right. So, change of track.
Okay.
How do we within ourselves do better? How do we back off of that emotional, messianic worshiping of one person being the answer?
Well, I think, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually wanted to go in that direction myself. All right, we're thinking alike here. I think part of the problem is that there's so much information out today, and it's so much easier to get information. And we've talked about this on the show before, like 150 years ago, you really relied on the newspaper to get information. And if you were out in rural America, I do too. Yeah. But, Americans used to be almost wholly dependent on that. Before radio, before television, it was the newspapers, and most people didn't get it. And so you lived your life, waking up to provide for your family, to make out your existence, right? Now we have all manner of abundance, and we have all manner of information, and there is an economy in fear. There is an economy that's been created around this information of fear, and you've got people on the right and on the left who are making hundreds of millions of dollars on presenting you with fear, instilling you with fear. Yeah. You open up Facebook and it's there. You open up Instagram, it's there. It's on X. There are people with podcasts. I mean, and I'm not trying to knock one or the other, but from the Ben Shapiro's on the right to you name your person on the left, it's there.
Yeah.
And they make money. They're monetized on your fear. Turn them off.
You remember the song "Dirty Laundry"?
Yes.
That's what happened in the news. Look at the bad stuff. Talk about the fear of the person that died in a car crash.
Yeah.
Don't talk about the lady that had a first baby after trying for 10 years or something like that.
Hey, Boerne, I want to take a moment here and recognize that Dale dropped a musical reference. It wasn't me. It was Dale. Dropped a musical reference, right?
I have like 3. Then I'm done.
That's it for the year?
Yeah.
That was good. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thank you.
No, you're right.
But it's so true that people thrive on it and live off of it and have incomes off of it and get rich off of our fear.
And I want people to, I don't really want you watching the news. It's not up to me. I think that reading the news, you get a lot more information. Watching is terrible. But
I stopped watching the news years ago.
Same here.
I got sick and tired of it.
Same here. Probably it's been 30 years for me since I've watched a news episode. I just read it, but I'm always real careful about what I take away from what I read. I don't want to take away fear. I just want, I want to go to the water cooler on Monday morning.
You have a water cooler?
Well, no. It's a manner of speaking, but I want to be informed, right? And about all manner of things, like how did the Spurs do, but I don't want to be sucked in to it where it's my whole life. It's the only thing I can talk about. I'm completely consumed by it. That I don't want that. Just want to be informed, and we got to figure out where that line is.
It's tough.
It is. It's not easy, and then these primaries. So first you've got this news cycle that instills fear, and then you get into these primaries, these partisan primaries, that are emotionally charged.
Yes,
and they bring out the worst in us. Because it's got to be. It's got to be Ken. It can't be John. Or it's got to be John. It can't be Ken. Or it's got to be Mays. Can't be Chip. Oh no, it's got to be Chip because if it's Mays, we're all Texas is going to hell in a handbasket. Well, no, it's not. But they do us no favors.
There's an interesting book that we've got at the store. It's along these lines. It's written by George Washington, actually, of all people. It's called Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversation. Very small book. It's just basically a list of rules. I'm going to read you the first one. First rule, every action done in company ought to be with some sign of respect to those that are present. So whenever you do something, and there's other people around, it should be done in a fashion that respects those people. He's got 110 of these. They're all short, one-liners, but they're all kind of neat. Be not hasty to believe flying reports to the disparagement of any. That's number 50. That'd be very appropriate right now.
Very relevant for today.
But it's a neat little book. We got it at the store. It's It's less than $10. It's a good thing. And
it's signed, too. That's nice.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I had to go check. No, it's not.
That's kind of creepy.
With that, I encourage everybody to get out and vote on the upcoming election, to be involved, be engaged, but keep the emotions at home.
And you can write in Dale Adams for county judge. No,
No, thank you. I don't want people slinging mud at me any more than they already do. But with that, we're going to wrap up our show, the Ceasefire with Dale and Ron. Thank you for listening. If you ever miss any of it, you can always go to BoerneRadio.com and look up ours and any of the other great podcasts.